There we go. All right. That's the wrong thing. Sorry. There we go. Hello, everyone, and we are so glad to have you in today for the home ownership seminar. And welcome to the Horton Initiative show. I am Barbara Horton, and today it's about ownership. So we know that we can have ownership in many ways, but today it is all about having a home. It's very important to have a place to call your own. And so today we have guests with us. We have Radhika Moore. She is our Red One Realtor here today. We also have Joseph Tomasky, who is here with us today. And they are going to give us all good information so we will know how to do the right ownership of our homes. So I'm going to give it over to Radhika.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Barbara, for that warm introduction. Again, my name is Radhika Moore. I just want to start out by telling you a little bit about me. I have been a realtor since 2018. Prior to that, I served on a committee with Mayor Coleman's office for 5 years. It was called the HEAC Committee. And that committee was built to help people promote homeownership. The mayor thought at the time, Mayor Coleman thought that it was pretty important that people understand building wealth and homeownership, and he made it an initiative. So I did serve for 5 years. Currently, I am with Red One Realty, who is my broker. Currently, I'm also managing a real estate team over at Red One Realty. And I am so glad to be here and to talk about all of the fundamentals of home ownership. What I want to talk to you about today is I'm a very interactive person, so I love questions. I know if you guys have questions, we're going live on Facebook. You can definitely put questions on Facebook Live or in the chat. I love to work through those different things. I kind of want to talk first about the importance of home ownership. Some of the importance of home ownership is, of course, building wealth. You also get a tax savings There is a level of pride that comes with home ownership, stability, and of course, to build great credit. One of the questions, I hear a lot is this a good time to buy? And my answer is always absolutely yes. Right now we're coming out of a very aggressive seller's market, where we have seen things that have been unprecedented, to the real estate community and to our nation. We had interest rates very low in the 2 and the 3s, and it created quite a frenzy all across the United States when it came to buying homes. Some of the things that we seen were homes going way over list price, a common practice called appraisal gaps. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. High appraisal gaps for people to compete and to get into homes, and different things of that sort. And right now we see the market cooling off. I still do believe that we are in a housing crisis that is definitely based off of supply and demand, and we don't have enough homes to meet the demand. We have some really high ball players coming. We know we talk about Intel and we talk about some of the other great coming to the city, and everybody is going to need housing and shelter. So we definitely are still in a housing crisis. However, because interest rates have come up a little bit, things are softening a little bit. So I say it's a great time for buyers, because that gives buyers a great perspective to get out and maybe get some of the things that they were not able to get in the past 3 years because of such an aggressive market. So one of the things that I love to talk about during these seminars is the difference between renting and buying, okay? And of course, when you rent, you build the wealth of your landlord. And when you buy, you build your wealth. And that's so important. And then I hear people say, well, I've heard people have conversations and say, well, I don't know if I want to buy because I don't know if, I want this to be my forever home or anything like that. And I always say, look at it as an investment, right? If you look at it as an investment, if I'm living in my house right now, it doesn't have to be my forever state, my forever home. I can always sell my property, and hopefully you've built some great equity and you can pull equity out and take that and buy something else, or whatever it is that you want to do. But it's the one thing that you can definitely leave to your heirs and to people, so that's why it's a great wealth building tool. I don't know, Barbara, if you can allow me to share my screen. I have a couple of slides. I love this one slide, and I share it all the time on my personal Facebook page. And it's called, here, I'm going to pull it up here. It's this one, right here. I love this slide because it's a great eye opener, and it talks about you cannot afford to not be a homeowner. In your mind, if you're thinking, well, I don't know if I should, buy a house, this chart says it all. We'll just take right here, $1,200. And you can find your rent payment somewhere on this chart. And if it's more, then, I embrace you. But $1,200, right? 10 years, a lifetime renter, you are paying $144,000. You've paid for a house if you've been renting at $1,200 a month for 10 years, and so on and so on. And if you've been a renter for 15 and 20 years, you've definitely paid for a property, but unfortunately, you did not pay for a property that you can benefit from. And that's why we're here today. We're here today to talk about how can we change that, no matter where you are in the buying process. If you're in the beginning, if you've bought and before in the past, if you don't know what to do, that's what we're here to help with. You using me as a realtor, I'm going to help you find location. I'm going to help you find the perfect home. the perfect price. You'll go to a lender and get pre-approved. And I'm not going to talk about a lender much because we do have an awesome lender here joining us today. We're going to talk about square footage. A lot of people say, I need this in my house, this in my house. I kind of help you weigh out what your wants are and what your needs are. Okay. If you need square footage, you need 3 bedrooms, that's not negotiable. But do you need, a soaker tub or do you need, some other things? So I'm really good at helping you decipher what your wants and needs are. We'll talk about styles of home, features, schools, locations, all of that good stuff. Some of the tools that realtors use is we use what's called the multiple listing service. Becoming a client of mine, the first thing we do is we have a buyer consultation specific to your needs. And we talk about credit, we talk about debt to income ratio, and we don't get real far into these things, but it's enough to, if you don't have a lender, to have me match you up with a lender that might meet some of your specific criteria. There's all types of lenders, all types of credit that requirements and different things like that. So I like to have that initially with my clients to talk about those things. Will you need down payment assistance? And then once we do that, we get you set up with an awesome lender and we get you pre-approved. During that pre-approval process, you'll get more in depth with the lender about how much money you make, your debt to income ratio, what you're looking for. They'll go over tons of numbers with you, and then they'll create what's called a pre-approval letter. At that point, once you get that pre-approval letter, that gives us some parameters to go shopping and look for your awesome brand new home. Once we get that home, we'll write an offer. We're going to anticipate that it's going to be accepted, and you'll be what's called in contract. Some of the things that I'll do is I'll negotiate that contract for you. I will help you set timelines and keep timelines. I'll help you in identifying a home inspector to come out and inspect the property. And that's one of the things that a lot of buyers were not able to do in this last market because of so many different multiple offers. Having just a simple home inspection, which is so important. A lot of buyers were walking away from that right to have that home inspection because homes were on the market and there were 10, 15 offers and they felt the need to be competitive. So with the market softening, these are some of the things that we can talk about freely and bring back to the table, like such a needed thing as a home inspection, or maybe asking the seller to take care of repairs if there's different things in the home that needs to be taken care of. I'll help you understand contingencies, the contract, and all of those good things. And I'll just kind of talk through everything here, the inspection process. One of the other things that I do is I will make sure that everything, there's a lot of things that go on in the background as you're talking with the lender and you're getting things with the lender together. I'm also doing that as well, as also speaking with the title agency and talking with the title agent about things that you need to do to bring to the table. Another thing that a lot of buyers were not able to do was for home warranties. That's something else that has recently come back to the table, asking the seller to pay for a home warranty or to pay for some closing costs. Now, this is a case-by-case basis, but with the market softening a little bit, we've been able to have some of those discussions. I always tell people this story. When I bought my first house back in 2002, my interest rate was 7%, and that was a great rate for FHA. So we are not in a place where we're doing something that's never been heard of before. We are getting back to normal times, coming out of an unprecedented time where interest rates were in the 2s and 3s. So after we talk about inspections, if there's any other kind of inspections that needs to be done, as far as like inspections with, termites or radon gas, I'll walk you through those processes. I'll make sure all of those things will get done. And once we're complete, we'll actually talk with a title agent, and that's when we all come together. The title agent makes sure that everybody can deal with the title, as far as the person selling the house can sell the house, you can purchase the house, they handle all of the monies, and then we all come together and you're handed your keys. Now, this is a very quick version of the home buying process, which, this meeting here today was meant for us to just kind of get acquainted, get some questions answered, and then have a more in-depth follow-up between you and myself, or the lender and yourself, and to get you on the road to home ownership. And with that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Joe Tomanowski, who is with First Commonwealth Bank, who is our lender today. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that he can go ahead and give his introduction. You're on mute.
Sorry, guys. Yes, so thank you, Radhika, and thank you, Barbara, for having me today. My name is Joe Tomasewski. I'm Community Lending Manager here at First Commonwealth Bank, and we have a team of loan officers that assists particularly first-time home buyers achieve the dream of home ownership. And we do that in several ways. Philosophically, we're a little different. We understand that this is a stressful time when you purchase your first home. A lot of you are going into this without really having an idea of what it takes to even become pre-qualified. So I want to spend some time today on pre-qualifications, working with a lender, and how we determine your eligibility to purchase a home. By doing this, it demystifies the process. You know exactly what we're looking at. And if you need to take these steps to improve your situation, you could do that now before seeing a lender. So I'm going to share some slides, and we're going to go over some information about the pre-qualification process. And I hope everyone can see my screen. Fantastic. So who can get a mortgage, right? So you come to a lender, and I'm just going to play this. So you come to a lender, you say, Joe, I want to get pre-qualified. What does it take? And it's really going through these first 3 steps, right? We take a look at your character, your capacity to repay, and your capital. And these are fancy terms, right? But what these really mean is character refers to your credit report and your credit profile. So we always say that credit is the keystone to becoming a successful homeowner. And that's the first thing we actually do. So when you come say, hey, Joe, I want to purchase a home, we take a look at your credit report. But it's not just your credit score that we're looking at. Yes, your credit score can determine your interest rate and what products you're eligible for, but we're taking a look at your entire credit profile. We're looking to see what accounts you have, and we're seeing how you have paid on those accounts previously. One way that we can actually track your likelihood to repay a mortgage is by how you've paid your debts in the past. Now, if you have some credit issues, doesn't necessarily mean you're automatically disqualified. We're going to get some more information. We're taking a look at every account. If you have delinquencies, we take a look at how long ago those were, how serious the delinquencies were, and we try to say, okay, if you had past credit issues, has that stopped? And are you now back on track? And will you be a successful homeowner? We take a look at judgments, charge-offs, collection accounts. We're going to ask a lot of questions regarding your credit. And we do that because different loan programs have different requirements. So we don't go into this saying, hey, I think you're perfect for FHA, or you're perfect for conventional, or you're perfect for a special first-time homebuyer program. What we do is we come in there with a blank slate. We're trying to identify options for you, and we let the credit report tell us what options you have immediately available. We also say, hey, if you need some issues working on credit, if it's a no today, then we have some resources we can refer you to, such as credit counselors with nonprofit organizations. You could continue working with Barbara. If there's specialized counseling that you need to receive, we could do that as well. And we help set you up so you can repair credit. You can put yourself in a better position by creating a budget and saving more money for down payment and closing cost assistance. And we also take a look to see what other programs are available for down payment and closing cost assistance, so you don't have to liquidate all the hard-earned money that you have saved. We're trying to put you in the best position possible. So the first thing we look at, credit, right? After we take a look at your credit, we take a look at your income. We see what income we can use to qualify you for a purchase of a home. And here's an important distinction. Not all the income you receive can automatically be used for the purchase of the home. Now, if you have a W-2 employment, if you're regularly employed, you get a paycheck, you get a W-2 at the end of the year, there may be some income, depending on your length of employment, that we may not be able to use. For example, let's say that you've been receiving overtime for the last 3 months, and you say, hey, Joe, I get my regular wage, plus I've been working overtime. In order to count overtime, we have to make sure that you have received the overtime for a certain length and that it's likely to continue as well. And we need a long enough history so we can average that amount. So there's just an example of, hey, there's sometimes where you say, Joe, I'm making this, and a mortgage company and a mortgage investor is not going to view it the same way. That's why when we do a pre-qualification and we take a look at your credit, we take a look at your income, we like to set aside 45 minutes to an hour to do a good pre-qualification. And by providing us documentation, I can identify obstacles and hurdles, and we can help overcome that. For example, with the overtime or bonus. There's some other examples of income that you may be able to use that your lender's going to ask further questions. If you're receiving child support, that income may be used to purchase a home. We will just have to take a further look at that, ask you some deeper questions to see if we're able to use that for income. If you recently switched jobs, we still may be able to use that income. We're going to ask you questions about your educational history, about your work history in the past to determine if that income is eligible for use. Now, the reason we start with credit and then we go to income is those are the two factors in your debt to income ratios. And your debt to income ratio takes a look at your income, your gross monthly qualifying income, and how much of that is going towards paying for the new house, and how much of the is going towards paying for the new house, plus all the other debts that appear on your credit report. And as a guide, different programs have different guidelines. And that's why we say we just don't walk in there saying, hey, I think you're perfect for FHA. We let your credit profile and your situation help us provide you options, is because every program's different. On average, if your front end debt to income ratio, which is how much of your income is going towards paying a new house, usually most programs want to see between 32 and 35% of your income going towards the new principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, your monthly mortgage payment. And then on the back end, which is all your debt, including the new house, it's about 45% of your income going towards paying that for conventional loans. FHA may allow a little higher back end debt to income ratio, where about 55% of your income is going towards paying all your debt. But there, you have to have some compensating factors for that. And compensating factors, fancy word of just saying, we want to make sure that if your debt to income ratio is a little higher, you have more than you need in terms of money for reserves, money left over after closing, so that it can kind of offset going, hey, if you have 12 months of your mortgage payment in a bank account after closing, then they may allow a little higher debt to income ratio. And one of the compensating factors is you have more money than you absolutely need for down payment, closing costs, and the establishment of your escrow account for the payment of your taxes and insurance. So once we go through character and capacity to repay, and we try to back into how much house you can actually afford based on your income, we take a look at capital. Capital is simply how much money you have for your down payment, closing costs, establishment of escrow. Your cash to close is actually three things in one. It's your down payment. Every loan program has a different down payment requirement, and every loan program, save for a VA loan if you're a veteran, or USDA if you're in a rural area, most loan programs have a down payment requirement. They want you to have skin in the game. And for most conventional loans, could be 3 to 5% of the purchase price. For FHA, it's a minimum of 3.5%. And for like a First Commonwealth, we have a special first-time homebuyer program where it's a 1% down payment requirement. So that goes into your cash to close. The other stuff that goes into your cash to close is your closing costs. You're going to have fees and costs associated with the purchase of the home. Some of that is appraisal fees, credit reporting fees, flood cert to make sure you're not in a flood zone, and many other fees. Buying a home can be extremely expensive. So when we take a look at your down payment plus your closing cost, plus you have to pay taxes and insurance on your new home, and that gets wrapped up into your mortgage as well. So you have to set up an escrow account for that payment. So when you take a look at your down payment, your closing costs, and the establishment of an escrow account for your payment of insurance and taxes, that can all add up. So what we do when we take a look at capital, see how much money you have set aside, and then we try to find different options for you through grants and other types of subordinate financing to minimize your out-of-pocket expenses, to help to minimize the total cost. And we want to make sure that you have more money in your bank account than you absolutely need in case of an emergency after closing. God forbid, who knew that COVID was going to hit us before COVID did. So we want you to be fully prepared and that you have an emergency fund after closing so that we know that if you do find yourself in hardship, you're able to continue making the mortgage payment. Now, once we go through character, capacity, repay, and capital, we give you a pre-qualification letter that Radhika was talking about, and you give that to your realtor and say, hey, Joe pre-qualified me for $150,000 or a $200,000 purchase. And that's where that you work with your realtor to find the dream home, and you say, hey, I already talked to the lender, we're good, and we should be fine with the purchase. However, I want to caution you, it's important that you work with a lender and a realtor and that they work together well, because you don't want to find yourself where you get pre-qualified from a lender, you put an offer on the house, and then the lender says, oh, no, we didn't know the taxes on this house was much higher than I used in the assumptions when we pre-qualified you. So it's important that your lender and your realtor work together to make sure, because a pre-qualification is fluid. It doesn't always stand still. And what I mean by that is every place you actually look at, the tax amounts are different. And depending on the tax amounts, it can affect how much house you can actually purchase based on your situation. So for example, if I use an estimate of your taxes at $200 monthly, but you find this beautiful house, and let's say that you're pre-qualified for $200,000, and both the purchase prices are $200,000, but Radhika shows you a house, and let's say taxes are $400 a month, then you might not be able to purchase that $200,000 with $400 a month in taxes, but you may be able to afford $200,000 with $200 in taxes. So your lender's always going to use assumptions. So that's why it's important that you work with and create a good team with your realtor and lender, so they're continuously talking, so they can make sure that you're able to put an offer in on that house and win and close on that loan. So that's just a few examples of how sometimes things happen where you say, hey, Joe, you gave me a $200,000 pre-qual. What I always do when I talk to a realtor, I say, hey, this was based on taxes at this amount. So Radhika knows if there's taxes that are a little higher, then 200 might not be 200 in this particular neighborhood because of the tax amount. So once we go through character, capacity to repay, and capital, you put the offer in the house, the offer gets accepted. Then you go through this process again, but we add collateral, conditions, and confidence. So the underwriter wants to make sure that your credit hasn't changed since you've been pre-qualified. They want to take a look at your documentation to make sure your income hasn't changed. You still qualify for the house, and they want to make sure you still have the amount of money that you had at pre-qualification at closing. The underwriter then takes a look at collateral, and that's a fancy way of saying, we're going to do an appraisal on the house to ensure that the house is worth at least what you're purchasing it for. So it's a protection for you to make sure you're not overpaying for a house. Once the appraisal comes in, and that's different than an inspection. An inspection looks for the quality of the house and the condition of the house. The appraisal is looking primarily at value of the house. Once we get an appraisal, the underwriter's always going to ask for additional information. One example of additional information they're going to ask for is proof that you've given your hand money or earnest money. Anytime that your offer is accepted, in most cases, there's earnest money or hand money where you give as a good faith promise to purchase a home, money that gets deposited into an escrow account. And what we want to see is that that money was cashed and put aside. So we'll ask for updated bank statements, things of that sort. Once we get all the conditions that the underwriter asks for, we get the confidence, the clear to close, and you get keys to your house at closing. So it's a very complex process, but it's really simple when you say, we're going to take a look at your credit, we're taking a look at your income, we're taking a look at how much money you have, and then we individualize options based on your current situation. And a lot of times I have customers that I look at and say, hey, you only have one option because of X, Y, and Z. But if you raise your credit score, save more money, things of that sort, then you'll have more options available to you once you take care of a few things. So every situation is different. There's not a one program fits all approach at all. And when you work with a lender and work with a realtor, you want to make sure that they fully understand and they have a variety of options to help you. And that's why when you talk to a lender, ask them about first-time homebuyer programs. Do you have any special programs that can help minimize my out-of-pocket expenses, lower down payment requirements? Many of these programs have no mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance doesn't protect you. It protects the lender in case of default. If you get an FHA loan or a conventional loan, and on that conventional loan, you put less than a 20% down payment, you have to have mortgage insurance. Again, mortgage insurance doesn't protect you, it protects us in case you don't make your payment. We have to foreclose on you. There are special programs that don't require you to have mortgage insurance. So when you're going through this process, you want to make sure that you ask for special programs, you ask for different programs that you may qualify for down payment, closing cost assistance. You want to work with a realtor and lender that has experience working with first-time home buyers. And you want to stick with your support group, right? Stick with Barbara, stick with the organizations that we connect you with, put yourself in the best position possible, work on your credit, and work with a good lender who's going to spend the time up front to ensure things look good. Yes, I can do a pre-qualification in 5 minutes, but it doesn't mean much if we don't get all the information and something happens where you work with the lender. They say, sorry, you're denied because you didn't spend the time to go through everything up front. I always like to put emphasis on doing the work up front so that when you are under contract, you find yourself in a position where there's minimal things that could happen that could impact your ability to purchase a home. When you purchase a home, I'd rather say, it's not you, it's the house that has issues. And if you decide not to continue, I understand, rather than, oh, well, you told me you made $45,000, but on paper, you really don't. So that's why I say, work with a lender that spends the time to review the documentations, to go over options, and work with a realtor who understands these programs as well. Sometimes they can be a little complex and difficult. And as long as you work with a good lender realtor team, we'll help you to navigate that process. And that's all I had.
All right, well, we will open up the floor here for our questions of things here.
I do have a comment as well. I'm just kind of piggybacking off of what Joe spoke about. They have a program that is awesome for first-time buyers. I absolutely love it. Your typical FHA loan is 3.5% of the purchase price. Okay. Typical conventional loan is 3%. They have a program that is a conventional program, no PMI, 1%. And that speaks volumes. So I'm going to talk about that $200,000 home. FHA, $200,000 home, 3.5%, $7,000 down payment. Now we could talk about how we can get that money together. And Joe, you jump in whenever you want. There are down payment assistance programs, but we take that same $200,000, 1%, $2,000, right? So that's a great difference for just the down payment portion. Down payment, FHA, 3.5, $7,000. 1%, the program they have, $2,000. So then having a great lender and realtor team, I'm not going to expose all my secrets, but I love this season that we're in because it allows me to go back to that seller and ask the seller a lot of things that we haven't been able to ask the seller to do. And when you're talking about homes that are sitting on the market, that seller is more open to put those conversations on the table. So I love to tell people you can buy a home. With me, it doesn't matter if the house is $50,000 or $650,000. You're going to get the same level of care. I love the lenders that I partner with. They have great communication, and that's so important because you have to think about that when you're building your team. And like Joe said, your team is your lender, your team is your realtor, your team is your home inspector, your team is, the lender hires the appraiser. That's still part of your team. And of course, the title agent and any other contractors or inspectors. So you need someone to help you do this. And you do not pay your realtor. We get paid by the seller. There are some soft circumstances where that may change, but we'll talk about that. That doesn't happen often. But for the most part, your realtor is paid by the seller, okay? So when you're thinking about building your lending team, think about the team that's going to work for you. Think about the knowledge, how acclimated they are in the community, how open they are to different programs, because not every lender uses down payment assistance. Not every lender has the same programs, such an amazing program as Joe has at his bank. Not every lender, not every realtor knows the lingo. So I'm saying I love to put people in homes. This is my absolute passion. I have a great team that we work with over at Red One, and I would love to assist anyone. This is not meant to be a scary thing. Have your one-on-one. The hardest thing about buying a home is taking the first step. Take the first step, have the buyer consultation, see where you are. And we do this all the time. If you're not ready, we're going to talk about what you need to do to get ready. And as long as you're dedicated, we're dedicated. Am I right, Joe? We work with people who may not be ready right now, but might be a year down the road, 6 months, whatever. As long as you're dedicated, we're dedicated. So I'm going to again
Absolutely.
open to anyone with questions. I know we have one guest here. Would love to hear from you. If you have a question, please ask it. If it's more personal, I did put in the love to connect with you. Joe and I can connect with you together. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to turn it over to our host now.
So, okay, let's see. So I know someone who is out looking for a house. They have put so much thousand in earnest money, but then also a huge chunk that they're also telling the person they're working with that they're willing to put in as well. Now, they've been looking for a house almost a year, and keep getting outbidded. Is this normal?
In the last market, yes, that is definitely market normal, depending on the circumstance. I don't know, what the other realtor, what they were writing in their terms. In the last market, I used earnest money a lot. In the current market, I have not been. Earnest money can be risky to it is a security to the seller, and it's risky for the buyer, okay, depending on the terms that were written in the contract. So I don't normally I write a good offer if I see fit. I also try to build a rapport with the other realtor to find out what's going on. So if I feel like earnest money is needed, I do write that in my offers. A lot of times I do not, because a lot of the people that I've already, that I'm working with, they're, pretty much serious. It just basically says, hey, this is a good faith estimate that I really want to buy the home. In the last market, that was kind of needed, with multiple offers, you had to come strong. Right now, I have not been using earnest money that much.
And
How-
just, and
sorry.
I just, sorry. I just wanted to mention, in the previous market as well, homes would be on the market for a day or sometimes 30 minutes before they went under contingent and someone had an offer accepted on them. We're starting to see houses actually stay on the market longer. We're starting to see some home prices decrease, and you're starting to see some home prices where, if they've been on the market, where to encourage the sell, they have lowered the price of the home. We're starting to see offers accepted with seller assist, where you're asking the seller to pay some of that. Now, that hasn't happened in a long time. When we were talking last summer, you had to go 20, 30,000 over asking just to be in the ballpark. Now it's turning around. Now down payment and closing cost assistance is becoming more accepted in the marketplace. And when we work with first-time home buyers, and this is what we're talking about, that it's still a great time to purchase. It's always a great time to purchase. If you work with a good lender and realtor team, they can position you, even if you need down payment and closing cost assistance or a little bit of seller assist, to help structure the deal to still be competitive in this marketplace. So don't think because you need down payment and you heard that they weren't accepting down payment offers that you're never going to be able to purchase a home. We are working with customers right now that have asked for seller assist, that have down payment and closing cost assistance programs on there. So this is still a great time to purchase. Yes, interest rates have risen, but we want to, and so has rent too. So that's the other thing as well, is rent's not staying the same, it's increasing as well. So when you compare owning to renting, home ownership is always the best option in terms of value. So let us help you. Let us help you determine a path forward. And then when you work with the realtor, they can help you find something that definitely fits your budget.
Absolutely. Great
Are
question.
you finding that people who have huge debts as far as student loans are not being approved for home loans?
Yes, and student loans are a big issue. Most investors view student loan debt, if it's on deferment or forbearance, we still have to count a payment in your debt to income ratio, even if you're not paying anything. So if your loan is in deferment or forbearance, right now, FHA requires 0.5% minimum. Fannie Mae could be 1%, Freddie Mac is 0.5%. Now, if you're in deferment or forbearance for our special program, we'll do 0.5%. But if you're on an income-based repayment plan and in repayment, we can use whatever that IBR is for our special program. So we have made our program responsive to that to help customers that normally would not be able to be assisted. So FHA still requires us to count a payment, even if your payment is zero on an income-based or income-driven repayment plan. We say whatever your student loan servicer says your payment is on that IBR, we will use that, even if it's zero. So yes, there are programs that can help with student loan debt. And that's why when I was talking about, we don't say one option's better than the other, because if you do have student loan debt, there's a huge difference between FHA and an IBR than say our first time homebuyer program. We treat it totally different, and we are more lax with that and can help the customer, whereas FHA says we still have to use 0.5% of the outstanding balance as a payment in your debt to income ratio. So a good lender is going to help you navigate that. Student loans, or it could be even a charge-off. The way that charge-offs are viewed from investors differ as well. So FHA treats it differently than a conventional loan. So that's why when we look at your credit report, we're just not looking at the credit score. We're looking at everything to say, okay, yes, based on your situation, FHA might be the best option, or conventional might be the best option, and here's why. It's always about customizing and individualizing the options, because it's not a one-stop shop or one-stop program for most customers. It's always going to be based on that credit profile. So yes, student loans are impacting eligibility, but there's ways of overcoming that.
This will be probably more to Radhika. Are you finding that homes in certain areas in the Columbus area are going faster than other areas?
It really just depends on the home. I wouldn't say it's a particular neighborhood more so than it might be the actual home itself. A lot of people want a turnkey home, something that they can move in, that's move-in ready. And those might be a little bit faster. Like I said, we're still in a housing crisis. So I don't want to give, the impression that we're not. We are, but things have slowed down. So my thing is what I try to help with my clients is, like I said, I try to help them weigh out their wants versus needs, and then what can we work on to make this your home. So I wouldn't say that one area, yes or no, faster. I've seen some really, really nice homes still sitting on the MLS, that people can live in, so it just really depends. Like I said, most people, homes that might have that, looks like it's been completely redone on the inside, you might have a couple of offers on, or it might not be on as long. But it really just depends. That's why I like to have those buyer consultations, because that's a good way to talk about, what you're needing, what your needs are, and then discuss, what your lending needs are. So I love to have those so that, we can, look at your specific information, your specific case.
As far as credit, what is the best range to be in when buying a home? And then what about if you want to use like portions of your IRA or your retirement to help in purchasing a home.
Yeah, so your credit score, the higher the better. When we talk about credit score, conventional loans are tiered. So your interest rate is based off your credit score. So the higher your credit score, the lower the interest rate that you will receive. Also, the higher your credit score, the more likely you are to get approved. So we don't like to say there's a minimum. There is an absolute floor on conventional loans. It's 620. And most lenders, even for FHA, which doesn't have a particular credit score requirement, most lenders can have overlays or can create their own. So right now, especially since COVID, credit score 620 minimum, but the higher your credit score, the better it is for your interest rate. And if you have to have mortgage insurance on a conventional loan, that's also tiered to your credit score. So it's more expensive for those with lower credit scores than it is someone with a higher credit score. So I hate to say, hey, have a 620 credit score and you can purchase a home. It doesn't necessarily, as I talk about individualizing and customizing options for customers, everyone's a little different, right? So yes, we can help individuals with 620 credit scores, but you may decide that it's going to be better for you to work on paying off some debt, get that credit score up, put yourself in a better position, because just because you hit a minimum doesn't guarantee that you'll be eligible for a loan. Conventional requires 620, but if you have a 635, that doesn't guarantee approval of that loan. So it's always better to have a little higher credit scores. And when we go through options, we can say, hey, right now you need to work on a few things, get that credit score up, pay off some debt. That's going to help open up your debt to income ratio. It's going to help increase your credit score. And then that's going to give you more options to purchase down the road. So right now, minimum 620 for most lenders, but some lenders even require 640, 660, and some programs that you utilize require that. For example, if you're getting a USDA loan right now, 640 plus. So every program's different. So, but if you have a 620 credit score, we may have options, but I hate to say, hey, if you have a 660, you're good to go. Remember, when we spend time on a pre-qualification, we're looking at your credit profile. We're looking at everything. We're just not looking at a credit score. So credit score is one factor, but not the only factor when it comes to getting pre-qualified.
And then what about, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I wanted to piggyback on something too that Joe said. There's also a couple of city programs that I work with that I promote, and I absolutely love them. If you want information on any of those programs, I did put my information in the chat. Reach out to me. There are a couple of programs where you can get a home built for $190. It's one of the best programs. And if you qualify, you can get up to a subsidy of $50,000, which means you will actually purchase a house for $149,000. So if you have questions about that program, it's a great program. There's a couple of others that's similar. Joe and his team, they are also a lender who writes loans for that particular program. If you want information for that program, reach out to me. I'll take you through the process. It is an amazing, amazing program. The houses are beautiful. So if you have anyone that wants to talk about that program, reach out.
And the other part that I don't know if it would be you or if it would be Joe about utilizing the retirement money or an IRA as part of the down payment.
Any loan program will allow you to do that. Whether or not that's the best way to go is going to depend upon what options you have available for that down payment and closing cost assistance. I would prefer that we explore all avenues before going that route. And what I mean by that is retirement's incredibly important. there's a number of programs inside the city of Columbus and outside to help with minimizing your out-of-pocket expenses. We participate in a program through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh that opens every March and April. It's a $5,000 grant program to help minimize your out-of-pocket expenses. This is also another great time to start preparing to purchase a home, not only working on your credit, but saving money to prepare yourself for next spring, because that's tax refund season. Your tax refund is a great way of funding your down payment and closing costs. Our first time home buyer program, or that first front door, works well with our first time home buyer program. That match program opens up March and April, coincides with your tax refund. So there's a lot of ways to minimize your out-of-pocket expenses without having to resort toward your 401k. So yes, we can do it, and all programs allow it, but is that really what's best in your situation? We will try to help identify other ways of funding your down payment and closing costs before resorting to liquidating your 401k.
I think that's all the questions I have wrote down. And I don't see anything. So I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I don't see anything.
I just wanted to share something I've been hearing lenders say. I've been hearing lenders say, marry the house and date the rate. And I'm like, oh my God, that is great. So with interest rates being higher, get your house, marry the house, and when interest rates drop, refinance. Okay, so that's a perfect way to think of things. So hopefully that does not discourage people for going forward with their homeownership goals. I still think it's an amazing time to buy. It's a great time.
I appreciate, I was looking again, but I don't see any more. Yeah. So I do appreciate the time that Rebecca Moore and Joseph Tomasky have given us, with lots and lots of information and nuggets in regards to home ownership. Please reach out to them. I have Radika's number, 614-929-4151, to get connected with her. As you heard them both say, it's good to have a team, a lender and a realtor team. So I tell you, I wouldn't have them on here if I didn't trust them. And I'm telling you, when it's my turn, that's where I'm going. So I encourage you to reach out and get connected so that you too can be a homeowner. And thank you again, Radika. Thank you again, Joseph, for being a part of today's session and educating us in homeownership.
All right, thank you. Bye, everybody.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.